Hey everybody, we're back and we're going to be learning about the genealogy of Canaan today. And I'll remind you where all these genealogies are found. They're found in Genesis chapter 5. That's the genealogy when speaking of Adam's bloodline. And then there's also Genesis chapter 11, which is consisting of Shem's bloodline, but we're still in Adam, so for now you only have to worry about being in chapter 5. Alright, so today we're at Canaan. We just finished with Enos. After Enos begat Canaan in 325 AC, which stands for after creation. He lived until 1235 AC, meaning after creation. And after creation means after creation of the earth. And his name, when translated in Hebrew, is possessor or purchaser. So, we're going to be talking about Daniel 11:1 through 4 today as well. And reason being is because Daniel 11:1 through 4 kind of ties into the start of Cainan in the AD section, because we're going to be comparing the definition of possessor and purchaser to 325 AD and seeing if we can find something that's directly in correlation to that year with that particular definition, as we have been doing with all the others. So, as you can see, we have Daniel chapter 11, and let me read to you what Daniel chapter 11, 1 through 4 says. And as I'm going to be reading to you, I'm also going to be going over in history what each of the events that were in history that follow along with these verses. So first we're going to start with Daniel chapter 11 verse 1. So 11:1 says, "Also I in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I, stood to confirm and to strengthen him." This is Daniel speaking, and he's there to strengthen Darius the Mede. Who is Darius the Mede? Darius the Mede can be found in history to be Gubaru. And if you need to find who Gubaru is, you can go look him up, and let me see if I can get you the specifics on that website real quick. So let's see, it's 325. I gotta go back some. That's down on 4, 2, 1. Alright, the website is https colon / www.biblicaltraining.org /library Darius Mead, and that is the site where you'll find the information I'm about to read to you. So Darius the Mede, who is he? He is not to be confused with the latter Persian monarch Darius I, who we will also be talking about right here. So, because Darius I reigned from 521 to 486 BC, not the same time, and he was of Median extraction, yes, of the seed of the Medes is what that means, and this of Median extraction, it being found in Daniel chapter 9 verse 1. That's where you find the Darius the Mede that we're talking about. And his father's name was Ahasuerus, 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 the Hebrew equivalent of Xerxes. The name of the son, Darius the First. You can see Esther 1:1 for that. Darius the Mede was born in the year 601 4/600 BC. For at the fall of Babylon in 539 BC, he was 62. Daniel 5:31 is where you'll find that. So all this is referring to Darius the Mede that we're going to be talking about, which totally rolls out the Darius the First. So a major assumption of negative higher criticism, according to the website, has been that the book of Daniel was authored by an unknown writer of the Maccabean age in approximately 164 BC, and has mistakenly thought that an independent Median kingdom ruled by Darius the Mede followed the fall of Babylon and preceded the rise of Persia under Cyrus. That's a mistake. Darius the Mede, however, is not depicted in the book as a universal monarch. His subordinate position under Cyrus is clearly implied in the statement that he was made king. So he's not the universal king. He was made king. Hebrew passive term for Hamlak, or Homlak, however you say it. Over the realm of the Chaldeans is another thing that it says in chapter 9, verse 1 in Daniel. So this Darius the Mede was over the Chaldeans. And also the fact that Belshazzar's kingdom was given to the Medes and Persians in chapter 5, verse 28 of Daniel, and that Darius found himself incapable of altering the law of the Medes and Persians, another reason why he's not a universal king in chapter 6, verse 15, where you can find that, renders the critical view untenable. So the early 20th century publication of additional cuneiform text from this period has enabled one to understand much better the circumstances surrounding the fall of Babylon in 539 BC. Anyway, all these are reasons for believing that this Darius is not this Darius the Mede. Two different people. So, let's see. It seems quite probable that Darius the Mede was another name for Gubaru, who I mentioned earlier. So why is that? The governor under Cyrus who appointed sub-governors in Babylonia immediately after its conquest. Nabonidus Chronicle is where this can be found. And also Daniel 6, chapter 6, verse 1. This same Gubaru, not to be confused with Ugbaru, or Ugbaru, however you wish to say it, governor of Gutium, the general under Cyrus, who conquered Babylon and died 3 weeks later, according to the Nabonidus Chronicle. And this is frequently mentioned in cuneiform documents during the following 14 years as governor of Babylon and region beyond the river. The entire Fertile Crescent is what it's referring to. Gubaru thus ruled over the vast and populous territories of Babylonia, Syria, Phoenicia, and Pal, P-A-L. And his name was a final warning to criminals throughout this area. This reference is by Whitcomb, J.C. Whitcomb, Darius the Mede, and his writing 1963, pages 10 through 24. And the fact that he is called king in the 6th chapter of Daniel is not an inaccuracy, even though he was a subordinate of Cyrus. Similarly, Belshazzar was called king, even though he was second ruler of the kingdom under Nabonidus in chapter 5, verse 29 of Daniel. The book of Daniel gives more information concerning the personal background of Darius the Mede than of Belshazzar or even Nebuchadnezzar, for he is the only monarch in the book whose age, parentage, and nationality are recorded. Although he was a subordinate ruler like Belshazzar, it is evident that he ruled Babylonia with far greater zeal and efficiency than did his profligate predecessor. And, even more important, he honored the God of Daniel. This can be found in chapter 6, verses 25 through 27 of Daniel. So that is your Darius the Mede. He is Gubaru, just in case you didn't know who that was. I know that took a few minutes to go over, but I believe in being thorough when presenting my information. So now we're going to read verse 2 in Daniel chapter 11. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia, otherwise known as Greece. So, the 3 kings that followed this Darius the Mede are mentioned right here. There's 4 kings: Cambyses the second, Bardia, Darius the first, and Xerxes. And we're going to discuss these to a little bit more extent. Cambyses the second reigned from 530 BC to 523 BC. He followed after Cyrus, who reigned in 539 BC. So, let's talk about this. Cambyses II was the son of Cyrus. And then we have Bardia, who is known to be Guamata the Magian, also known as the Pseudo-Smerdis, who reigned during 523 to 522 BC. And then the third one would be known as the Persian Darius the First, or Darius the Great. He reigned from 522 to 486 BC. And the 4th king would be Xerxes the First, who reigned from 486 to 465 BC, which was the peak of the Persian Empire, and they sacked Athens. So you remember me reading, it said, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. So that's Xerxes the First. Xerxes' mother was Atossa, Atossa, the daughter of Cyrus the Great, and his father, Darius the Great, left him the task of punishing the Greeks for their part in the Ionian Rebellion. This took place from 499 to 494 BCE, and their defeat of the Persian army at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE. Xerxes began extensively preparing for his expedition against the Greeks in 483 BCE by raising money and accumulating provisions. And it goes on to tell you what all he did. Says he also entered into an alliance with Carthage, and even many of the smaller Greek states sided with the Persians. A large fleet and a vast army, numbered by some at over 2 million men, were gathered, and he certainly did stir up all against the kingdom of Greece, is it what it says. It says in spring of 480 BCE, though, Xerxes set out from Sardis, Sardis. At first, he was victorious, but when Xerxes attacked the Greek fleet under negative conditions at the Battle of Salamis, spelled Salamis, on September 28th, 480 BCE, he lost, even though his fleet was more than 3 times as large as the Greek navy, 1,207 ships to 371. This battle decided the war, and Xerxes was forced to retire to Sardis. And the army which he left in Greece was finally beaten the next year. The Delian League, spelled Delian, also known as the Athenian Empire, they were formed in 477 BCE as an offensive and defensive alliance of the Greek city-states against the Persians. The Greek Empire had begun its rise. Now we will go to number 3, verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with a great dominion, and do according to his will. I want to remind you, all this in Daniel chapter 11 is a dream that he had, a prophecy. And it's all coming true in order. So, a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall... I'm going to go ahead and read verse 4 with this, because it kind of starts connecting to Cainan. So, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. So, let's see what this means. So, the mighty king that stood up, we refer to him as Alexander the Great. This happened in 332 BCE to 323, which is getting pretty close to 325, just to let you know. He arose from Greece and conquered the entire Persian Empire in about 4 years. That's pretty quick. Alexander died in an early age, though, and left no heir. The next 4 empires would only share the Middle East. First is the Ptolemaic Empire, which was the south, which was from 323 to 30 BC. Second is the Seleucid Empire, Seleucid. North is where they reigned, 323 to 130 BCE. Then the Roman/Byzantine Empire. You'll notice the slash I said. This was the West, 63 BC to 637 AD. You notice that kind of goes into our year 325. And the Parthian/Sassanid Empire, Sassanid, Sassanid, and they were the East, and they reigned from 130 BC to 651 AD, also during this 325. And the dates are approximately correct. It's not necessarily on the money, but it's pretty darn close. So we're going to read verse 4 again just so you can see where we're at. It says, after he has appeared, his empire will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 winds. This is a different version I'm reading, of heaven. It will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the power he exercised, because his empire will be uprooted and given to others. My version says, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken. So it pretty much means the same thing. And shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, because he's dead, nor according to his dominion, because he had no heir. That's why we're speaking of Alexander the Great. Even for others beside those. So this is where we have, let's see. So the first is Seleucus ruling Syria, Mesopotamia, and Persia. This happened during 358 to 281 BC. So it kind of goes in the date. So let's see. Son of Antiochus, one of Philip's generals, fought in the Companion cavalry, and later became commander of the crack-heavy infantry formation, the Hypaspitae, Hypaspistae. He took Perdiccas' side immediately after Alexander's death, but was later instrumental in his murder following the failure of the Egyptian campaign. And Antipater appointed him governor of Babylon in 321, but in 316 Antigonus drove him out of Babylon, and he fled to Egypt, where he joined Ptolemy in the war against Antigonus. So we're talking about 325 being referred to a possessor or a purchaser, and here we have the son of Antiochus, and what happens is he took Perdiccas' side immediately after Alexander's death, and after that he's sort of like the ruler here. But it kind of leads to certain events. So here we'll find it talks about a continuing on. Antigonus drove him out of Babylon and fled to Egypt, where he joined Ptolemy in the war against Antigonus. And he returned to Babylon in 312 and steadily extended his authority over the eastern provinces. In other words, the purchaser. After campaigning in India, he made peace with the Indian ruler Chandragupta, receiving in return a corps of elephants, which played a part in his 301 victory at Ipsus over Antigonus. At the partition of Antigonus's domains, Seleucus added Syria to his territories and founded his western capital at Antioch. In 285, his most threatening rival, Antigonus's son, Demetrius, surrendered, and in 281, Seleucus turned on his former ally, Lysimachus, and he invaded Lysimachus's territories in western Asia Minor, and at the Battle of Corpedium defeated and killed him. But when he crossed to Europe to claim Lysimachus's Thracian kingdom, he was assassinated by Ptolemy Ceraunus, the son of Ptolemy the First. So they end up kind of taking each other out. Both Seleucus the First of Nicator and Lysimachus. Now, if I remember correctly, Lysimachus was, let's see, let me go back up and check, because there's 4 different areas. You have the north, the south, the east, and the west, and I'm trying to remember which one was which. So let's see, Ptolemaic was the south, the Seleucid was the north, the Romans and whatnot were the west, and the Sassanid was the east. So Seleucus was the Macedonians, and Ptolemy is Egypt and North Africa, also a Macedonian king. Lysimachus was Thrace and Asia Minor, which is modern-day Bulgaria and western Turkey. And then Cassander, just Cassander, he ruled Macedon and the Greek peninsula. So there are your 4 different kings. So we just stopped at Seleucus. Let's go to Ptolemy, discuss him a little bit. He was from 360 to 284 BC, son of Macedonian nobleman Lagus, and one of the inner circle of Alexander's commanders and advisors. He fought with distinction in India and wrote a history of Alexander's campaigns, which was an important source for Arians' Anabasis, or Anabasis, however you say it. After Alexander's death, he was appointed governor of Egypt and determined to maintain his independence of the central authority of Perdiccas, Perdiccas. One of his first actions to this end was to divert to Egypt the cortege bearing the body of Alexander, which the army had intended to be buried in Macedonia. Ptolemy justified his acquisition of this precious relic, which was interred with great magnificence at Memphis and subsequently at Alexandria, on the grounds that Alexander had wished to be buried at the Oracle of Ammon. Ammon, that is a very interesting name, because Ammon is mentioned in the Bible several times. In fact, let's take a quick look, see what we can get on Ammon. This was not actually something I was going to do, but I want to. The people of this kingdom called children of Ammon, or the Ammonites. So let's see. They are a Semitic-speaking kingdom from the Bronze Age period, occupying the east of the Jordan River. Okay. I'm trying to see if they, let's see. The first mention of the Ammon in the Bible is Genesis 19, verses 37 to 38. And it is stated that they are descended from Ben-Ami, a son of Lot, through incest with his younger daughter, Benami. Right, I remember. Both the children of Ammon and the, I believe it was the Medes as well. No, Moabites. The children of Ammon and the Moabites both came from Lot. So that's why that Ammon place is important to say the least. And in 322, he allied himself with Antipater. By the way, we're already past 325, so this person, he is a possessor of what? Alexander's body, bringing it to Ammon. And why do they allow him this great, I'm not sure if I want to use the word pleasure, but honor, that's the word, honor. It's because he said that this is where Alexander wished to be buried. It was his final wishes. So this trusted person, trusted advisor, commander, is going to do it for him. So in 322, he allied himself with Antipater against Perdiccas, and the pact was consolidated by his marriage to Antipater's daughter, Eurydice. And in 316, he joined forces with, Cassander, Seleucus, and Lysimachus to resist Antigonus's ambition to reconstitute the whole of the Macedonian Empire under his rule. So, if that had happened, the kingdom being broken would not have happened. So all four of these became the possessors of these lands because they joined together against this man and kept it separated. So that's very important. And actually, I don't think I really need to continue with that, because that kind of just pointed out my biggest reason to why those four kings are important as to this particular study. So we now know why they can be called the possessors or purchasers of this particular land of Cainan. That's interesting, because that's pretty much where they're at. They're in the land of Canaan. They're the purchasers, possessors of that land. Although it's referred to as the Macedonian Empire back then. But hey, gotta come from somewhere. Just because you change your name doesn't mean you change where you're from or anything else for that matter. So we've discussed the four winds. Now let's get to 324 and 325 BC. So now we're going to, not only have we pointed how Daniel 11, 1 through 4 connect, but now we're going to go into another connection as well that I think is important to mention as well. So let me go in my notes. Alright, so now we have Constantine. Roman and Byzantine split, and the First Council of Nicaea. So Constantine, he was also a leader of Sol Invictus, S-O-L space I-N-V-I-C-T-U-S, otherwise meaning unconquered sun. And this was the official sun god of the later Roman Empire and a patron of soldiers. In 274 AD, the Roman Emperor Aurelian made it an official cult alongside the traditional Roman cults. Scholars disagree about whether the new deity was a refoundation of the ancient Latin cult of Sol, a revival of the cult of Elagabalus, or however you say that, Elagabalus sounds better, or completely new. The god was favored by emperors after Aurelian and appeared on their coins until Constantine the First. The last inscription referring to Sol Invictus dates to AD 387, which is past where we're at. And there were enough devotees in the 5th century that Augustine found it necessary to preach against them. Now, the tradition dating from the 12th century that the near solstice date of December 25th for Christmas was selected because it was the date of Roman festival of Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. So if you're wondering whether the date of Christmas is technically Jesus' birthday, not exactly. This date was chosen by Constantine, the leader of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. The date in itself is a pagan holiday. Just letting you know. Not saying you can't go and worship Jesus on this holiday, celebrate his birth, but it's not exactly the correct date. Just something important to know. Possessor, purchaser, let's see how that comes into play. Considering that he is the Roman emperor from 306 to 337 AD, I'd say he is the possessor and conqueror of somewhere. So let's see. Constantine was the son of Flavius Valerius Constantius, a Roman army officer, and his consort Helena. His father became Caesar, the deputy emperor in the West, in 293 AD. So this is the West we're talking about. Constantine was sent east, where he rose through the ranks to become a military tribune under the emperors Diocletian and Galerius. In 305, Constantius was raised to the rank of Augustus, senior Western emperor, and Constantine was recalled west to campaign under his father in Britannia, otherwise known as Britain. Acclaimed as emperor by the army of Eboracum, modern-day York, after his father's death in 306 AD, Constantine emerged victorious in a series of civil wars against the emperors Maxentius and Licinius to become sole ruler of both West and East by 324 AD. Sole ruler, possessor, purchaser. He didn't necessarily purchase, but he became the ruler. He was the possessor of this land, Constantine the Great, both the East and the West. Constantine the Great was a Roman emperor. Oh, I already read that. I'm sorry. As emperor, Constantine enacted many administrative, financial, social, and military reforms to strengthen the empire. The government was restructured and civil and military authority separated. A new gold coin, the solidus, was introduced to combat inflation. It would become the standard for Byzantine and European currencies for more than 1,000 years. The first Roman emperor to claim conversion to Christianity. This soul possessor. I wonder if the reason he became that soul possessor and when it was able to win his battles was because he turned his life over to God. I think that's interesting. Can't say that God doesn't have power. He gave this guy power. He ruled for a long time over East and West. That's interesting. Soul possessor. Soul purchaser. Yeah, I think that alone would be good enough. But let's continue to figure out this First Council of Nicaea and the Roman and Byzantine split. So, we stopped at the Constantine played an influential role in the proclamation of the Edict of Milan in 313, which decreed tolerance for Christianity in the empire. He called the First Council of Nicaea in 325 on the dot, at which the Nicene Creed was professed by Christians. In other words, they came to a sole decree. One rule on what their belief system was. In military matters, the Roman army was reorganized to consist of mobile field units and garrison soldiers capable of countering internal threats and barbarian invasions. Constantine pursued successful campaigns against the tribes on the Roman frontiers, the Franks, the Alemanni, the Goths, and the Sarmatians, even resettling territories abandoned by his predecessors during the turmoil of the previous century. I'm going to not read all of the rest, but basically during Constantine's reign, that is when we get first he defeats Licinius in battle, became the sole ruler of the Roman Empire, and then almost immediately began receiving reports. Did the Council of Nicaea, and then the Roman Empire voluntarily split into the Roman Empire in the west and the Byzantine Empire in the east. So it's because of him that Constantinople became the eastern capital and Byzantine Empire became empire at all. Constantine I built the new capital and was the first Christian Roman emperor. Centuries later, the rise of Islam diminished the size of the Byzantine Empire, but they continued to rule Constantinople until 1453. The eventual fall of that city is mentioned in Daniel 11 verse 15 because the victory was significant to the Middle East Empire. So this is the reason why I believe this also to be important in these Daniel chapter 11, 1 through 4, as well as Cainan discussion, because it ties in later to Daniel and the latter verses of it and the latter predictions of the coming end times. They're all tied together, and you'll see as we continue doing the names as well. Now, just to finish up with Cainan, we're going to now refer to the 1235 and in BC. This was the end of the 40 years of wandering in the desert for the Israelites. This was where Joshua takes charge while reminding Israel that God was their purchaser, their redeemer from the land of Egypt. Possessor, purchaser. That could also be why Constantine was important, because first Christian convert emperor, he was a reminder to let people know that God was in charge. Hint, hint. Then you have Judges chapter 4 and the story of Deborah and Barak. That's an interesting name. Does that seem like a name that people should know? President Barack Obama? Funny how his name is mentioned in the Old Testament by someone else who has that same exact name. Funny thing is that his story seems very familiar. Would you like to hear that story? Give me a second and I'll read it to you. So let's see. It was Judges chapter 4. Alright. And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord when Ehud was dead. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan. Except here Canaan is spelled Canaan. I don't think it truly makes a big difference. Land of Canaan, the name Canaan, hint hint, they're tied together. That reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and 20 years he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. 20 years. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time. And she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel and Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment. And she sent and called Barak, the son of Abinoam, out of Kedesh Naphtali, and said unto him, Hath not the Lord God of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali, and of the children of Zebulun, and I will draw unto thee to the river Kishon Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. And Barak said unto her, If thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go. Barak seems kind of like a wuss to me. Saying, I need this lady to go with me. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. Kind of sounds like somebody who's always by his side. Sounds like a Democrat I know named Hillary. But hey, kind of similarities that you see in this kind of stuff. But I know it's not them. I'm just saying that the similarities and Cainan story, kind of interesting that they're all tied to here. Anyway, and she said, I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor, for the Lord shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. Now this is sounding interesting, because Barak was too afraid to go himself, by himself. It's going to be a woman who gets the credit. Seems to me like if Hillary gets elected, something might happen, and she take all the credit for his doings and whatnot, and then everything goes kablooey. Just something. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying the story seems very interesting to me. I mean, we are tying dates in with dates here. Like 325 to the future 325. Maybe we're in another future that's tying in to Cainan as well. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure. But it is interesting that we have somebody named Barak as our president, and being a leader and not wanting to go do war. And then there's somebody who makes in her announcements as wanting to be president saying, oh, we're going to bring the war to them. I remember seeing this video not too long ago. It's interesting. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up with 10,000 men at his feet, and Deborah went up with him. Now Eber the Kenite, which was of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, had severed himself from the Kenites, and pitched his tent into the plain of Zaanaim, which is by Kadesh. And they showed Sisera that Barak, the son of Abinoam, was gone up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera gathered together all his chariots, even 900 chariots of iron, and all the people that were with him, from Harosheth of the Gentiles unto the river of Kishon. And Deborah said unto Barak, Up, for this is the day in which the Lord hath delivered Sisera into thine hand. Is not the Lord gone out before thee? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. And the Lord discomfited Sisera, and all his chariots, and all his host, with the edge of the sword before Barak, so that Sisera lighted down off his chariot, and fled away on his feet. But Barak pursued after the chariots, and after the host, unto Harosheth of the Gentiles. And all the host of Sisera fell upon the edge of the sword, and there was not a man left. Interesting. Howbeit Sisera fled away on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Eber the Kenite, for there was peace between Jabin the king of Hazor and the house of Eber the Kenite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said unto him, Turn in, my lord, turn in to me, fear not. And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a mantle. And he said unto her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk, and gave him drink, and covered him. Again he said unto her, Stand in the door of the tent, and it shall be, when any man doth come and inquire of thee, and say, Is there any man here? That thou shalt say, No. Then Jael, Eber's wife, took a nail of the tent, and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly unto him, and smote the nail into his temples, his eyes, and fastened it into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said unto him, Come, and I will show thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So God subdued on that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel prospered, and prevailed against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan. Then sang Deborah and Barak the son of Abinoam on that day, saying, Praise ye the Lord for the avenging of Israel, when the people willingly offered themselves. Hear, O ye kings, give ear, O ye princes. I, even I, will sing unto the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord God of Israel. Lord, when thou wentest out of Seir, when thou marchest out of the field of Edom, the earth trembled, and the heavens dropped. The clouds also dropped water. The mountains melted from before the Lord, even that Sinai from before the Lord God of Israel, in the days of Shamgar the son of Anath, and the days of Jael. The highways were unoccupied, and the travelers walked through byways. The inhabitants of the villages ceased. They ceased in Israel until that I, Deborah, arose, that I rose, a mother in Israel. They chose new gods. Then was war in the gates. Was there a shield or spear seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart is toward the governors of Israel, that offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless ye the Lord. Speak ye that ride on white asses, donkeys. Ye that sit in judgment, and walk by the way. That they are delivered from the noise of archers and the places of drawing water, that there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of the villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, utter a song. Arise, Barak, and lead thy captivity captive, thou son of Abinoam. Then he made him that remaineth have dominion over the nobles among the people. The Lord made me have dominion over the mighty. Out of Ephraim was there a root of them against Amalek after thee. Benjamin, among thy people. Out of Machir came down governors, and out of Zebulun they that handle the pen of the writer, and the princes of Issachar were with Deborah. Even Issachar, and also Barak, he was sent on foot into the valley. For the divisions of Reuben there were great thoughts of heart. Why abodest thou among the sheepfolds, to hear the bleatings of the flocks? For the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead abode beyond Jordan. And why did Dan remain in ships? Asher continued on the seashore, and abode in his breaches. Zebulun and Naphtali were a people that their lives unto the death in the high places of the field. The kings came and fought. Then fought the kings of Cainan and Taanach by the waters of Megiddo. They took no gain of money. I don't know about you, but this is eerie, similar to what is supposed to happen in the future. Because it talks about in Daniel about a people not being interested in gold or money and destroying. Wait, no, it wasn't Daniel, it was Isaiah. They fought from heaven. The stars in their courses fought against Sisera. The river of Kishon swept them away, that ancient river, the river Kishon. O my soul, thou hast trodden down strength. Then were the horse hoofs broken by the means of the prancings of their mighty ones. Curse ye Meroz, said the angel of the Lord, curse ye bitterly the inhabitants thereof, because they came not to the help of the Lord, to the help of the Lord against the mighty. Blessed above women shall Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, be. Blessed shall she be above women in the tent. He asked water, and she gave him milk. She brought forth butter in a lordly dish. She put her hand to the nail, and her right hand to the workman's hammer, and with the hammer she smote Sisera. She smote off his head. When she had pierced and stricken through his temples, at her feet he bowed. He fell. He lay down. At her feet he bowed. He fell. Where he bowed, there he fell down dead. The mother of Sisera looked out at a window and cried through the lattice, why is his chariot so long in coming? Why tarry the wheels of his chariots? Her wise ladies answered her, yea. She returned answer to herself. Have they not sped? Have they not divided the prey, to every man a damsel or two? To Sisera a prey of divers colors, a prey of divers colors of needlework, of divers colors of needlework on both sides, meat for the necks of them that take the spoil? So let all thine enemies perish, O Lord, but let them that love him be as the sun when he goeth forth in his might. And the land had rest 40 years. I find it interesting. Be as the sun, S-U-N, when he goeth forth in his might. That is also a reference to the end times as well. From the land of the rising sun shall he come. A person coming in the name of the rising sun, I believe it said. I have to look it up specific, but the rising sun is definitely a very specific name. And then in chapter 6 they go back to doing evil. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains, and caves, and strongholds. Is it not the Iranians in which we made a deal with that have been sort of like conquering our every move since they started making that deal? And it didn't start just yesterday or just this year or last year. If you Google it and look up the nuclear deal beginnings, timeline of nuclear diplomacy with Iran. Okay, let's see. The National Council of Resistance on Iran, the political wing of the terrorist organization, holds a press conference and declares Iran has built nuclear facilities back in 2002. Let's see. I believe it's like 2012 or so where it begins. Maybe before that. Let's see. Let's try 2009. Following an Iran policy review by the new Obama administration, the United States announces that it would participate fully in the P5+1 talks with Iran, a departure from the previous administration's policy requiring Iran to meet UN demands first. This is back in 2009. And September 25th, 2009, United States President Barack Obama, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and French President Nicolas Sarkozy announced that Iran has been constructing a secret second uranium enrichment facility, Fordo, in the mountains near the holy city of Qom. I think that's how you spell it, Qom. IA spokesman Mark Vidrakir said that Iran informed the agency September 21st about the existence of the facility, but U.S. intelligence officials said Iran offered the confirmation only after learning that it had been discovered by the United States. And then October 1st, 2009, the P5+1 and Iran agreed in principle to a U.S.-initiated, IA-backed proposal to fuel the TRR. The proposal entails Iran exporting the majority of its 3.5% enriched uranium in return for 20% enriched uranium fuel for the TRR, which has exhausted much of its supply. The agreement was later met up with domestic political oppositions in Iran, resulting in attempts by Tehran to change the terms of the fuel swap. So all this started back in 2009, and 2009, it's been 7 years since then, since Iran has really been holding us hostage under this deal. 7 years. Almost done. Just an opinion, not telling you that we're following indirectly in correlation with the Bible, but it is pretty eerie that we have this name presented before us, and it's interesting, to say the least. So this was a little bit longer video than we usually do, but I think if you listen through the whole thing, you probably learned something about Cainan that you might not have known beforehand, and might have gotten yourself into knowing a little bit about prophecy as it relates to dates and names and meanings within the Bible. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed talking to you, and I hope to have you continue to listen to future videos. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day or night wherever you're located on the globe.